So I live in Minneapolis, and this year Woodworking in America was held in Kansas City, which means that it was within a reasonable driving distance for me, about 6 hours. I convinced Dima to go earlier in the year, so we figured we could make a fun little road trip out of this. One place that I had always wanted to go was the Grizzly Showroom, and the closest one to me is the location in Springfield, Missouri. I figured being in Kansas City, I'd never be closer, so that would make for a good side trip. And since we had to pass through Des Moines on the way to Kansas City, we might as well stop in and check out the Woodsmith store. Each stop was about 3 hours apart, which we figured would break up the time in the car a bit. So let's hit the road. I loaded up my truck with all my gear and the prizes for the Video Woodworkers booth, and left my house around 5:30 in the morning. My first stop was to pick up Andy Klein. He decided to join us on the adventure about a week before. We got to Dima's house around 10 after 6, and we loaded up his car and hit the road. About an hour in, we stopped for gas and grabbed some breakfast, and Dima ordered what I've dubbed the heart attack soup. And then we're on our way again. We got to Des Moines around 11 and made a quick pit stop to get some donuts. This is a really good idea. The donuts complemented our stash of beef jerky. Next, we pulled up to the Woodsmith store, which was just a few minutes away. Right when I walked in, I was shocked by the size of the store. It was a lot bigger than I thought it would be. Just aisles and aisles of tools. What surprised me the most, though, was the lumber section. They had what was essentially a mini lumber yard in the back of the store, with all sorts of different boards, thicknesses. They also had slabs, and they also had various types of plywoods there as well. We walked around for a bit, but no one ended up buying anything. But Dina did pick up a complimentary copy of Shop Notes. Back to the road. We arrived in Kansas City around 2 o'clock, and we dropped off the prizes for the booth and swapped Andy for Matthew Morris and took off. The Grizzly Showroom closed at 6, so we're really hoping to make it there with enough time to at least look around a little bit. We pulled up to the showroom around 5:15, which gave us 45 minutes to look around. We took some pictures out front and headed in. We were met there by Phil and Andrew, who had stopped to meet us on their way up to Woodworking in America. I'd heard of this magical scratch and dent section, so that's where we went first. I was really surprised by how many tools were in there, and we actually spent most of our time in this section. At about 5:45, we figured we should probably check out the rest of the showroom before it was too late, and this showroom was gigantic. They had every tool in their lineup literally lined up there on the floor to look at. We looked through the tools, but quickly ran out of time as the store closed. So back into the car for the drive back to Kansas City. We got back to the hotel around 8:30, checked in, dropped off our stuff in our room, and then headed to the Meetup at the hotel restaurant. Walking into this place was such a surreal experience. I had never met most of these people, but I knew exactly who they were, and I felt as if I had known them well. Day one started off with finishing the booth setup, and I was able to sneak into the end of Will Neptune's period carving class once the booth was all set up and the marketplace was open. After class, I headed back to the marketplace and stopped by the booth for a bit. And then I headed over to the Hand Tool Olympics to give that a try. Friday's events were hand cutting a tenon, cross cutting a board, and drilling a hole with a bit and brace. In each event, you're ranked for speed and accuracy. There is an overall winner for each event, and everyone who tried was entered into a raffle. This was a lot of fun and was the first time I had done any of these operations.
It's not that kind of show.
Oh, my pants. The plum there, cowboy, except for maybe one. That's all I get on this two there. Three.
Next, I headed back up to the classrooms for a presentation by Alf Sharp on furniture styles and designs. He showed how styles have evolved and taken influence from one another over the past few hundred years. He also showed how styles of the same period vary between American, which tend to be simpler, and English, which tend to be more ornate. I didn't attend the other afternoon class as I opted to spend some more time in the marketplace.
Fairview Cyclone, CDS06.
That evening was the brews and browse in the marketplace. Pretty much you get a beer and walk around the marketplace, and I'm pretty sure this was set up to encourage impulsive spending. Although, it didn't work on me. Later that night was the creator meetup, and this was a great opportunity for everyone who has a channel to hang out and talk shop, so to speak. Afterwards, it was back to the hotel to hang out and then go to bed finally. Day 2 started out with a breakfast for the full conference attendees, and the breakfast was followed by an awesome presentation by Don Williams on the Studley tool chest. After breakfast, I went over to a case construction class by Will Neptune. This class in particular really demonstrated the value of these classes. Although the class was about different joinery methods that could be used to make up a case, the real value was all the geometric tips and concepts to make your case come together without issue. Between sessions, I headed back to the marketplace and David filmed my part of the PSA trolling video. Next, I headed back up to the classrooms for a session by Megan Fitzpatrick on how the magazine is produced and how the readers can get involved and contribute to it. Next, I hopped over to a session by Alf Sharp on router uses for period work. Here he's demonstrating a router jig for the lathe that allows him to cut flats on a table pedestal for attached to the legs. Or are they feet on these things? I'm not sure. Back to the marketplace again for a little bit before it closes. Here's Mike Fulton trying out a smoothing plane at the Lee Nielsen booth. The marketplace closed at 6, so now it was time to take down the booth. Thanks again to everyone who stopped by. I think we had the most trafficked booth in the whole marketplace. So thank you. Next it was over to the Mega Mimo Meetup, and that was a lot of fun, so thanks Steve for putting that on. And then of course, back to the hotel to hang out for a bit before heading to bed. Day 3 was a half day and last day for the conference. I started my day by attending David Mark's class on creative turning techniques. David showed us this point tool, which I'd never seen before.
Because it's safer than a skew. There's something about the math or the geometry that by having 3 planes to it, it's less likely to grab or get a catch.
Part of the session was a demonstration of double bevel marquetry, which I found really interesting.
Lower down a little bit. Now I'm going to try to come back to that entry hole and see if I can minimize that. All right, shut that off.
After that class, we started our journey home, but first we made a pit stop for some barbecue. After an awesome lunch, we hit the road for our 6-hour drive back. During the drive, I snuck in a quick nap while Dima made faces with my camera. We got back to Minnesota, stopped at Dima's house, and I continued on. And I got home around 10. So I had a really great time this year. I went last year as well, but I think this year was a lot more fun than last year. I don't know why, but it was a blast. The nice thing about going to a conference like this is you're just surrounded by so many people who love woodworking probably just as much as you. So it's really nice to be able to be around all those people that have that common interest. And that's what I really enjoyed the most, because everywhere you go, everyone you talk to, you can always talk about woodworking if you don't have anything else to talk about, or it's the other thing you want to talk about. So another big thank you to everyone who stopped me, that was there, and introduced yourself. It was really awesome to meet everyone and put a face to the name and all that fun stuff. So thank you for that. Thank you, as always, for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about my adventures going to WIA, please feel free to leave me a comment. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And then hopefully I'll be there again next year. And if you decide to come by, we can meet. Oh, So thanks again, and as always, happy woodworking.